My own grandson looked me dead in the eye at our family Christmas, and told me I was a burden who needed to pay up or get out. What Leo didn't know, what none of the 20 guests laughing at his joke knew, was that the very ground beneath his feet was mine. The Manhattan high-rise he called his own, the sports car parked in the garage, the platinum credit card his wife flashed at every boutique, all of it, every single brick and dollar, belonged to me. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am 68 years old, and this is the story of how my greatest act of love looked like cruelty. Sometimes the kindest silence is the one you break. The scent of honey-glazed ham and fresh rolls filled the penthouse. I'd been cooking since dawn, preparing all of Leo's childhood favorites. 20 people filled the dining room, cousins, his colleagues, his wife Chloe's friends. The table glittered with rented silver and crystal that reflected the twinkling lights of the massive tree. I moved between the kitchen and the dining room, serving, clearing, refilling glasses of expensive champagne. My hands, worn from decades of work, trembled slightly under the weight of a heavy platter. "Ellie, for heaven's sake, take a load off," my sister-in-law Brenda said with a pitying smile. "You've done more than enough." "I'm fine, really," I lied, forcing a tight smile. From my spot by the kitchen island, I had a perfect view. Leo held court at the head of the table, wearing a designer shirt and the expensive watch Chloe had gifted him. He was telling his cousin about his latest project. "This quarter has been insane," Leo said, gesturing with his wine glass. "The client is a nightmare, but the compensation for a lead architect in this city makes it all worthwhile. It's what lets us afford this place, the car, the lifestyle." Chloe, seated beside him in a dress that likely cost more than my first car, nodded in agreement. "The bills never stop," she added, loud enough for all to hear. "Maintaining this standard of living in New York is a constant battle." Heads nodded around the table. My brother, Frank, cleared his throat. "He's not wrong. The rent in this neighborhood is criminal." "Exactly," Leo said, sitting up straighter. "That's why I tell everyone, you have to hustle. Nobody hands you anything in this city." A knot tightened in my stomach, but I kept serving the ham. No one looked at me. No one saw how my knuckles were white as I gripped the serving fork. The conversation swirled around money, the cost of living, how hard it was to get ahead for people who were already on their third bottle of $100 wine. Then it happened. Leo wiped his mouth, took a deliberate sip of wine, and his eyes found mine. There was a cold determination in them I recognized from his father, my late husband Robert. But this time, it was aimed at me. "Grandma," he said, his voice slicing through the chatter. The room fell silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me. "Since we're all talking about finances and the home," he continued, setting his glass down with a firm clink, "I think it's time we addressed your living situation." Time seemed to slow. "If you want to keep staying here with us, you need to start contributing to the rent. Just like any other adult sharing a space. It's only fair, right?" he added, scanning the table for support. "We're all adults here. And if your widow's pension can't cover it, well, maybe it's time to find somewhere more within your means." Chloe nodded, sipping her wine. "Everyone has to be responsible for their own expenses, even family. In fact, especially family, we should be honest about these things." I looked around. Brenda looked away. Frank studied his plate intently. A few guests nodded slightly. Not a single person spoke in my defense. The silence was so thick I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. I felt 60 years of sacrifice, of building an empire from nothing so my grandson could have a future, evaporate into the penthouse's filtered air. Carefully, I set the serving fork down on the counter. I folded my napkin and placed it neatly beside my untouched plate. I stood up, my knees protesting. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I believe this will be the last Christmas dinner I host in this home." Leo looked confused. "Grandma, don't be so dramatic. We're just trying to have a realistic conversation." "You're absolutely right, Leo," I interrupted, holding his gaze. "It's time to be realistic." I turned and walked toward the hallway leading to my room. Behind me, I heard uncomfortable murmurs, the scraping of chairs, someone forcing a laugh and saying, "So, who's ready for pie?" I closed my bedroom door. The soft click of the latch echoed in my soul like the end of an era. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the small room that had been my sanctuary for 3 years. A single bed, an old dresser, 2 photo frames on the nightstand. I picked one up. Robert and I on the day we opened our first commercial building in Queens. I was 33, wearing a simple dress, my hair pulled back. Robert held the giant scissors, ready to cut the ribbon. Behind us stood a modest 3-story building. Our first dream realized. How did I get here? From a young wife with a vision to a grandmother my own grandson pities. Let me tell you the truth no one at that table knew. Robert and I met in a small Pennsylvania town. I was 20, cleaning offices. He was 23, a carpenter with sawdust in his hair and big dreams. We married 6 months later in a courthouse ceremony. Our honeymoon was a weekend in a borrowed cabin. When Leo's father, Michael, was born, we lived in a 400-square-foot studio in the Bronx. Robert worked construction 14 hours a day. I did accounting for small businesses from home with Michael in a playpen beside me. Every single dollar went into a metal lockbox we hid in the closet. No frills, no vacations, just work, save, and one singular dream, to own our own property. It took us 15 years. 15 years of counting pennies. 15 years of saying no to dinners with friends. 15 years of hand-me-down clothes and watching Michael grow up in that tiny studio, sharing our bed until he was 8 because there was no space for another. In 2005, we finally bought our first duplex, 500 square feet in Queens for $55,000. We renovated it ourselves. Robert did the electrical. I sanded the floors. Michael, then 7, handed us nails. We rented it to a young family. That rent went into another account, then into another property and another. Robert had the vision. He could look at a dilapidated warehouse and see its potential. I had the knack for numbers. I could make a dollar stretch further than anyone. In 2012, we purchased our 7th building. Our lawyer suggested we form a company. Robert, looking at the pigeons that always gathered on our fire escape, said, Vance Holdings. Like our name, but looking upward. Together, we weathered the 2008 crash. When others were selling in panic, we bought with precision. Townhouses in Brooklyn, lofts in Soho, commercial spaces on the Upper West Side. By 2018, Vance Holdings managed 52 properties. And then, one Tuesday morning in March 2019, Robert clutched his chest while reviewing blueprints in our home office. Ellie, was the last word he spoke before he collapsed. The hospital said it was a massive heart attack. He didn't suffer, the doctor said, as if that were a comfort. I opened the nightstand drawer and pulled out a simple manila folder. Inside were documents no one in this household knew existed. The Articles of Incorporation for Vance Holdings, LLC. Stock certificates. Eleanor Vance, 90% majority shareholder. Property deed, penthouse, Upper West Side. Owner, Vance Holdings, LLC. Vehicle registration, luxury SUV. Registered to, Vance Holdings, LLC. Authorized user, Leo Vance. Credit card statement, primary account holder, Eleanor Vance. I slowly flipped through the pages. Each one was a monument to what I had built, and what I had allowed my grandson to believe was his. Leo had just graduated with his architecture degree. He landed a job at a reputable firm. His salary was decent for New York, but not enough for the life he and Chloe envisioned. One afternoon, he came to see me at the Vance Holdings office, where I worked quietly from a back room while our CEO, David, handled the public face of the business. Grandma, he said, sitting across from my modest desk. Chloe and I want our own place. We found an apartment for rent, but it's $2,500 a month. With my salary, it's possible, but it'll be tight. I looked at my grandson. He had his grandfather's eyes, that same drive. But there was a naivete there and ignorance of the true cost of things. I pulled up the Vance Holdings system on my computer. We have a vacant penthouse on the Upper West Side, I told him. 2,000 square feet, fully renovated. Market rate is $4,200 a month. Leo's eyes went wide. Grandma, that's way out of my league. I'll rent it to you for $1,200, I said. An internal family rate. Seriously? His face lit up. But what about you? I'm perfectly happy in my little place in Queens, I lied. That Queen's apartment was also mine, of course. He never asked who was behind Vance Holdings. He signed the lease that week. On paper it said lessee, Leo Vance. Lessor, Vance Holdings LLC. 2 months later, Chloe entered the picture, a social media manager with a taste for luxury. I saw her posting photos of the penthouse. My architect fiancé has such an eye for beautiful spaces. When they married, I gave him one more thing, an additional credit card linked to my account. For emergencies, I told him. In case something important comes up. Emergencies became tasting menus at exclusive restaurants. Something important was a $3,000 designer handbag. The statements came every month and I paid them in silence. $800 here, $1,500 there, $4,000 for a weekend in the Hamptons. I never said a word. And when Leo asked if he could use one of the company vehicles to make a better impression on clients, David signed the authorization, which I approved from my little office. It's temporary, I told David. Just until he saves up for his own. 3 years later, that temporary arrangement was still his black luxury SUV. I took out my phone. It was 11:58 p.m. on Christmas night. Outside, fireworks from a rooftop party lit up the sky. I dialed a number from memory. David, it's Eleanor. Eleanor. Merry Christmas. Is everything all right? He sounded concerned. David Miller had been Robert's protégé. After my husband's death, he became my right hand and the only person who knew the full extent of my role in Vance Holdings. I need you to prepare all the documents related to Leo first thing tomorrow morning, I said, my eyes on the photograph of Robert. The lease, the vehicle authorization, the credit card statements. A pause on the other end. Eleanor, are you certain? Completely, I replied. It's time my grandson learned the true meaning of the independence he's so fond of preaching. I pulled a suitcase from the closet. Dust motes danced in the air. Inside were still the tags from a trip to Chicago Robert and I had planned but never took. I started packing my clothes. I didn't have much. A few blouses, 2 pairs of trousers, a warm sweater. It all fit into half the suitcase. I caught my reflection in the mirror. A 68-year-old woman stared back. Gray hair, wrinkles, hands that told a story of hard work. I had spent over 40 years building something from nothing. And for the last 3, I had allowed my grandson to trample that legacy while I served him dinner in silence. Why? Because I wanted him to be happy. I wanted him to feel successful. I thought unconditional giving would foster gratitude. I was wrong. Love that never says no isn't love, it's permission for entitlement. I closed the suitcase. The sound of the zipper was final. I took my purse, put in my wallet, phone, and the keys to my real apartment, the one Leo had never seen, and opened the bedroom door. Laughter and music spilled from the dining room. They had moved on. They probably thought I was sulking, that I'd emerge in the morning contrite and apologetic for ruining their evening. I wheeled the suitcase down the hall. The sound of the wheels on the hardwood was a screeching declaration. The conversation died. 20 heads turned. Chloe was the first to speak, that condescending smile plastered on her face. Ellie, don't be so dramatic. No one is throwing you out. We're just having a grown-up talk about responsibilities. You're right, Chloe, I interrupted. It's time for all of us to be responsible adults. Leo stood up, his cheeks flushed. Grandma, where are you going? I didn't mean for you to leave tonight. I just wanted you to understand that. I understand perfectly, I said, standing firm by the front door. I understand that you believe this home is yours. That the car is yours. That your success is entirely self-made. It is. Chloe interjected, standing now too. Leo works tirelessly. He earns everything he has. Nobody gave him a handout. I looked directly at her. I could have revealed it all then. I could have thrown the property deeds on the floor. But I didn't. The most powerful lessons aren't taught with words but with consequences. You're right, I said simply. Nobody gives you anything for free. I'll be in touch. I opened the penthouse door. Leo took a step toward me. Grandma, at least tell me where you're going. Let me call you a car. That won't be necessary, I replied. I've already arranged for one. Then at least text me when you get there, so I know you're safe. I looked into the eyes of my grandson, the boy I'd rocked to sleep, the young man I'd watched graduate, the man who had just chosen pride over family. When I decide it is necessary to communicate, I will, I said softly. Good night, Leo. I closed the door behind me. The building's corridor was quiet, lit by sterile LED lights. I didn't look back. I didn't cry. I just breathed. For the first time in 3 years, I breathed without the weight of a lie crushing my chest. The elevator descended silently. When the doors opened in the lobby, the night doorman looked up, surprised. Ms. Vance? Leaving so late? Jerome, I said, remembering his name. Could you do me a favor? Of course. When someone comes to collect the black SUV in parking space 12 in the next few days, please grant them access. They have authorization from the company. Jerome looked confused but nodded. Yes, ma'am. Outside, a dark sedan waited. It wasn't a taxi. It was a Vance Holdings car, driven by Henry, a longtime employee. Good evening, Ms. Vance, he said, taking my suitcase. To the West Village apartment, please. I settled into the back seat. The city I had conquered block by block, contract by contract, streamed past the window. And somewhere along the way, I had become a ghost in my own story. The car turned onto a quieter street. The West Village was my real home, a cozy, unpretentious 2-bedroom in a brownstone. No doorman, no marble foyers. Henry stopped the car. Do you need help with your bag? No, thank you, Henry. I can manage. I climbed the steps, unlocked the door. The apartment smelled of books and quiet. This was my sanctuary, the place I came to be Eleanor Vance, the businesswoman, not Ellie, the grandmother living on her family's charity. I left the suitcase by the door and sat on the sofa. The silence was absolute. No music, no laughter, no grandson demanding rent. Just me and the decisions I would make in the morning. I took out my phone. 3 missed calls from Leo. 1 text, Grandma, please just tell me you're okay. I didn't want this. It was just a conversation. Call me. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into the Vance Holdings portal. I clicked on the folder, Leo Vance Assigned Assets. A list appeared. Lease agreement, West 80th Street, expires January 31st. Assigned vehicle, SUV, temporary authorization. Additional credit card, $7,500 limit, linked to primary account. 3 clicks. That was all it took to change my grandson's life forever. Was I being cruel? Vindictive? No. I was finally being the grandmother he needed, one who understood that the greatest gift isn't giving everything, but teaching the value of anything. I closed the laptop. Tomorrow, I would talk to David. Tomorrow, the process would begin. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in years. The Vance Holdings office occupied part of a sleek building in Midtown. I arrived at 8:15 a.m. on December 27th. The receptionist, a young man named Ben, nearly dropped his phone. Ms. Vance. Good morning. Good morning, Ben. Is David in? Yes, he's in his office. I walked down the hall. The walls were lined with photographs of our properties. In one, taken a few years back at the opening of a mixed-use development, Robert stood, hard hat on, smiling. In the background, slightly blurred, was me. No one ever knew who that woman was. I knocked on David's door. Come in. David Miller, 48, with a touch of gray at his temples, always impeccably dressed, stood immediately. Eleanor. Please sit. I didn't sit right away. I went to the window. You could see the pulse of the city below. Do you have the documents? I asked. David opened a folder on his desk. Everything is here. But before we proceed, I have to ask, are you absolutely sure? Once we start this, there's no going back. David, I turned to him. Robert and I built this company with sweat and silence. We never wanted to be the kind of family that flaunted its wealth. But my silence stopped being humility and became a deception. A deception that allowed my grandson to speak to me as if I were a beggar at his table. I know, he said softly. I never agreed with keeping him in the dark, but I respected your choice. It was my mistake, I admitted. And it's my responsibility to correct it. I finally sat. David slid the folder to me. I opened it. The first document was the penthouse lease. Clause 4.b, the lessor may terminate with 30 days written notice. The second was the vehicle authorization, clearly stating it could be revoked at any time. The third was the credit card report for the last 6 months. My hand trembled seeing the numbers. Fancy restaurant, $920. Designer store, $3,650. Luxury hotel, $2,500. The list went on, totaling over $52,000 in half a year. Meanwhile, I was still wearing a coat I'd owned for a decade. Is Rebecca here? I asked, referring to our attorney. She's waiting in the conference room. Rebecca Lynn, a sharp woman in her 50s, had our legal files ready. Eleanor, she said, shaking my hand. David briefed me. I'm sorry about the situation. I don't need sympathy, I said, sitting. I need legal and efficient action. Rebecca nodded. Very well. We have 3 assets, the residence, the vehicle, the credit card. Let's review the options for each. She turned her laptop screen toward me. Property, the lease expires January 31st. You have the legal right not to renew. We simply need to send a formal notice today, December 27th, giving him 30 days to vacate. What if he refuses? Then we begin formal eviction proceedings. But I doubt it will come to that. When he receives notice from a property management company, not from his grandmother, it will feel different. And if he tries to find the owner? Rebecca allowed a small smile. Vance Holdings LLC is a private entity. The ownership is not public record. By the time he could petition for that information, the 30 days would be up. Vehicle, she continued. This is simpler. It's company property. We revoke the authorization immediately and demand its return. How? We send a formal letter requesting return within 48 hours. If he doesn't comply, we send an employee with a tow truck and the spare keys. Do it, I said without hesitation. Credit card, Rebecca said. Easiest of all. It's an additional card on your personal account. You can cancel it with one phone call. Effective immediately. I looked at the 3 documents. My grandson was about to lose his home, his wheels, and his unlimited spending power in a matter of days. Is it too harsh? David asked gently. We could phase it. Card first, then the car, then the— No, I interrupted. Phasing it would be more cruel. It would be like pulling off a bandage one hair at a time. He needs to feel the full impact to comprehend the magnitude of his error. Rebecca looked at me with what might have been respect. You're tougher than I thought. I'm not tough, I said. I'm a grandmother who was blind for 3 years, and has finally decided to see. We spent the next 2 hours drafting the documents. A letter of non-renewal for the lease. A formal request for the return of the company vehicle. And a phone call to the bank to cancel the credit card immediately. The documents will be sent by certified mail and email today, Rebecca confirmed. The card will be dead by lunchtime. The car. Recover it tomorrow, I said. Give him a day to process the first letter. And you? David asked. Where will you be when this unfolds? In my West Village apartment. I'm not hiding. If Leo wants to find me, he knows where this office is. But I won't make it easy for him. And if he goes to the media? Rebecca asked. Wealthy grandmother evicts grandson. That's a juicy headline. Let him, I said. I have 40 years of documents showing how this was built, and 6 months of statements showing how he and his wife spent it. I stood up, my knees creaking. 68 years. I felt every one of them. Thank you, both. I know this is uncomfortable. Eleanor, David said, also standing. Robert would be proud of you. He always said real love builds character, not dependency. I felt a lump in my throat. Robert. How I missed his counsel. I wish I'd listened to him sooner, I whispered. I left the office. The winter sun was bright. Tourists milled about. Life went on. I stopped in front of a designer store window. There was a handbag I recognized from the statements, $2, 800. Chloe had posted it online with the caption, "When your hubby has great taste." My phone vibrated. A text from Leo. "Grandma, morning. Where are you? I went by your queen's apartment, but the super said a family lives there. Call me. I'm worried." I put my phone away without responding. I walked to a small diner I liked, one without a social media presence, just good coffee and honest food. I ordered a coffee and a bagel. The total was $4.75. Chloe probably spent that on a single coffee. My phone rang. It was David. "The emails have been sent," he said. "Leo should be receiving them any minute now." "Perfect. Eleanor, are you really okay?" "Yes," I replied, looking out the diner window. "For the first time in 3 years, I am perfectly okay." I hung up and took a sip of coffee. Bitter, strong, and true, just like the lesson my grandson was about to learn. Leo opened his laptop at the dining table. Chloe was still asleep. They'd argued until 2 a.m. about the drama I'd caused. "She's overreacting," Chloe had said. "She'll come crawling back tomorrow." But that morning, there were no messages, no calls. Just an eerie silence that made his stomach churn. He clicked open his inbox. Among the holiday spam, one subject line made his blood run cold: "Formal notification, lease non-renewal." Sender, Vance Holdings Administration. His heart hammered. He opened the email with shaky hands. He had to read it 3 times before the words computed. "Will not be renewed. Vacate the property. January 31st. "What the hell?" he whispered. He immediately dialed the number at the bottom of the email. A professional female voice answered after 4 rings. "Vance Holdings Administrative Department, how may I help you?" "Yes, hello, this is Leo Vance. I just got an email about my lease being terminated. There has to be a mistake. I've always paid on time. I've never had any issues." "One moment, Mr. Vance, let me check your file." The sound of typing. Each second stretched. "Mr. Vance, there is no mistake. The property owner has decided not to renew the contract. It is within their legal rights per your agreement." "But why? What did I do?" "I don't have that information, sir. We simply execute the owner's decisions." "Who is the owner?" Leo asked, panic rising in his throat. "I need to speak with them. This is insane. That information is confidential. If you wish to appeal, you may send a written request to our Midtown office." Midtown, Leo frowned. He knew that area. "Is there anything else?" "Yes. Can I reapply when the apartment is listed again?" "Of course. When it's available, you may apply like any other prospective tenant. The current market rate for that unit is approximately $4,500 a month." Leo nearly dropped the phone. $4,500. "But I pay." "You pay $1,200, Mr. Vance. A preferential rate that is no longer applicable." The line went dead. Leo sat, staring at his phone. $4,500. His take-home pay was about $3,000. It was impossible. "Leo." Chloe appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her silk robe. "Why are you shouting?" "We're being evicted," he said, his voice hollow. "We have to be out by the end of January." Chloe blinked. "No. That's not possible. This is your apartment." "It's rented," Leo muttered. "It always has been." "But you pay. You have rights. They can't just—" "Yes, they can." And they did. Chloe strode over and read the email over his shoulder. Her face shifted from confusion to disbelief to pure fury. "This is because of last night. Your grandmother did this. She somehow got to the owner." "I don't know," Leo said, running his hands through his hair. "I don't know, but I have to find out." He grabbed his jacket and the SUV keys. Where are you going? To the Vance Holdings office. I'm talking to someone face to face. This cannot be happening. Leo parked the SUV in an expensive garage and hurried to the building. He'd never been inside. The plaque read Vance Holdings. He took the stairs 2 at a time. The receptionist, Ben, greeted him. Good afternoon. How can I help you? I need to speak to the director, the manager, whoever is in charge, Leo said, trying to sound calm. I'm a tenant and I just received an illegal eviction notice. My name is Leo Vance. Ben checked his computer, and his expression shifted minutely. One moment, please. He disappeared down the hall. Leo looked around. The walls had photographs of buildings. He recognized a few. And then he froze. A large, centered photo showed his grandfather, Robert Vance, in a hard hat, smiling in front of a construction site. The plaque read, Robert Vance, co-founder, 1990 to 2019. In memoriam. Co-founder. His grandfather was a carpenter. He'd never mentioned. Mr. Vance. A man in his late 40s approached, hand extended. I'm David Miller, Executive Director of Vance Holdings. I understand you have concerns about your lease. Leo shook his hand automatically, but his mind was reeling from the photograph. Yes, excuse me, that photo. My grandfather worked here. David followed his gaze, and a shadow crossed his face. Robert was far more than an employee, but that's a separate matter. Why don't we step into my office? David's office had a panoramic city view. Leo sat. David opened a file. Mr. Vance, I understand your concern, but the decision not to renew is legally sound. The owner? Who is the owner? Leo interrupted. I need to talk to them. There's a misunderstanding. My grandmother, she said some things at Christmas, and if that got back to the owner, your grandmother has nothing to do with this, David said, though Leo detected a strange note in his tone. It's a business decision. Then let me reapply. I can pay more. I can, the market rate is $4,500 a month, David said firmly. Can you afford that? Leo opened his mouth. Closed it. The math was brutal. There are other apartments in the city, David continued, not unkindly. I suggest you start looking. The January market is competitive. Leo stood, feeling dizzy. This isn't right. As he left, his eyes fell on the photo of his grandfather again, and this time he noticed something new. In the background, slightly out of focus, was a woman in a simple pantsuit, holding a binder and speaking with authority to a man in a suit. Her posture was hauntingly familiar. Chloe had decided shopping was the answer. While Leo dealt with the apartment, she'd buy the dress she'd been eyeing for their New Year's party. In line to pay, she pulled out the shiny platinum card she always used. She swiped it. Declined. Try it again, she said, her smile tight. The cashier tried twice more. Declined. Declined. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's not going through. Another form of payment. The people behind her murmured. Her cheeks burned. Must be a glitch, she said quickly, putting the card away. I'll be back. She stormed out, heart pounding, and immediately called the bank. Chase Bank, this is Stephanie, how can I help you? My card was declined, Chloe said, trying to sound authoritative. I need to know why. It's the card ending in 7734. One moment. I see. This is an additional card. The primary holder is Eleanor Vance. Chloe felt a wave of cold dread. Eleanor. My husband's grandmother. Yes, ma'am. And that card was cancelled yesterday, at the primary holder's request. Cancelled. Yes. It was deactivated at 3:15 p.m. yesterday. Is there anything else? Chloe hung up, her hands trembling with rage. She immediately called Leo. Hello, he answered, sounding drained. Your grandmother, she spat. Cancelled my credit card. Which card? The one I use. The one I've always used. How could she? Chloe, that's not your card, Leo said slowly, as if realizing it himself. It's an additional card on my grandmother's account. You told me it was ours. You said the company provided it as a perk. I thought it was. No, Leo. You either lied, or you were too stupid to know the difference. Chloe, calm down. We can fix this. I have my card, we can use. Your card has a $2,500 limit. Chloe said coldly. Do you have any idea what I spend in a month? What it costs to maintain my profile, my brand, my life? Maybe that's the problem, Leo muttered. What did you say? Nothing. Forget it. I'm coming home. We need to talk. Chloe hung up, standing in the middle of the mall, surrounded by the evidence of a life she could no longer afford. For the first time, she felt poor, and she hated it. Leo woke with a headache. The doorbell rang at 8:15. He opened it, expecting a food delivery. Instead, two men in company vests stood there with clipboards. Mr. Leo Vance. We're from the Vance Holdings Asset Department. We're here to recover the SUV, license plate HYL 809. Leo was confused. Recover? That's my car. The older man showed him a document. According to our records, the vehicle is owned by Vance Holdings LLC. Your temporary use authorization has been revoked. We need the keys and your signature on this receipt. This is ridiculous, Leo felt his face flush. That car was assigned to me 2 years ago. I need it for work. Mr. Vance, the man said with practiced patience. The document is clear. The vehicle was never in your name. It was always company property. Here is your signature authorizing temporary use for business purposes. He showed him the page. There was his signature from 2 years ago. How had he not read it properly? What if I refuse? Then we will retrieve it using a tow truck and our spare set of keys. Mr. Vance, this can be easy or hard. Your choice. Chloe appeared behind him. What's going on? They're taking the car, Leo said, defeated. What? Chloe pushed past Leo. You can't take that. It's ours. Ma'am, we are employees following instructions. If you have a complaint, you can take it to our offices. Leo turned, went inside, and came back with the SUV keys. He dropped them into the man's hand. Thank you for your cooperation. Please sign here. Leo signed. The men inspected the vehicle, took photos, and 10 minutes later, the black SUV was gone. Leo and Chloe stood in the entrance, staring at the empty parking spot. Your grandmother, Chloe said slowly, is systematically destroying us. I don't understand, Leo shook his head. None of this makes sense. How can my grandmother have this much influence over? He stopped. An impossible, absurd idea began to form. The photo of his grandfather. The word co-founder. David's odd demeanor. The apartment, the car, the card, all connected to Vance Holdings. No, he whispered. It can't be. What can't be? Chloe asked. But Leo was already running back to his laptop. Google search, Vance Holdings owners. The results showed corporate info. Vance Holdings LLC. Founded 2005. Executive Director, David Miller. Portfolio, 52 properties. Estimated value, $42 million. He clicked images. Photos of buildings, ceremonies, press clippings. And then he saw it. A photo from 2017, at the opening of a Brooklyn residential complex. In the foreground, David Miller cutting a ribbon. But in the background, clear as day, was his grandmother, Eleanor Vance, in a tailored suit, speaking with two men who were clearly listening to her intently. He zoomed in. The caption read, David Miller, Executive Director of Vance Holdings, at the opening of the North Star Residences, a project developed by the Vance family. The Vance family. With trembling hands, he searched LinkedIn. Eleanor Vance, New York. No public profile. But a search of Vance Holdings employees yielded a list. And there, with no photo, was a single entry, Eleanor Vance, principal shareholder. No. No, no, no. Leo ran his hands through his hair. Chloe read over his shoulder. Your grandmother owns Vance Holdings. I don't. Maybe. Oh my God, Chloe. I think she does. Then the apartment is hers. The car. Hers. The card. Hers. Everything. Everything was hers. Chloe sank onto the sofa, her face pale. We've been living in her house, spending her money, while you, she turned to him, eyes blazing, while you bragged to everyone that you were self-made. Oh my God, Leo. You told her to pay rent, in her own house. Leo felt sick. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. How could you not know? Didn't you ever ask? Didn't you think it was strange that an Upper West Side penthouse cost $1,200? I thought it was an employee discount or something. She always lived so, modestly. Her old clothes, her small apartment, what small apartment? Chloe laughed, a hollow, ugly sound. Leo, I'll bet anything that small apartment was a lie, too. She probably has a penthouse somewhere she never showed us. Leo stood abruptly and grabbed his keys. Where are you going? To find someone who will tell me the truth. His great-aunt, Irene, was in room 412, recovering from hip surgery. Leo hadn't visited in weeks. Too busy. When he entered, she was awake, watching TV. She looked up and a flicker of disappointment crossed her face. Leo. This is a surprise. Aunt Irene. He walked over and kissed her wrinkled cheek. She looked small in the hospital bed. How are you feeling? Better. They say I can go home soon. That's good. An awkward silence hung between them. Irene looked at him with eyes that saw too much. You didn't come here to check on my hip, did you? What's wrong, Leo? He sat in the chair beside the bed. I need you to tell me the truth about Grandma. Vance Holdings. The money. Everything. Irene slowly muted the TV. So you finally figured it out. You knew. Of course I knew, child. I was there. I watched your grandmother and grandfather scrimp and save for years. I watched them buy their first duplex. I watched them build the company from the ground up. Why didn't they ever tell me, Irene? She sighed, a weary sound. Because your grandmother wanted you to be your own man. She didn't want you growing up like one of those trust fund kids who thinks the world owes them a living. But they lied to me. They didn't lie to you, Irene corrected firmly. They just didn't tell you the whole story. There's a difference. They let me believe I was supporting the household, that I was taking care of her. And that felt good, didn't it? Irene asked knowingly. It made you feel important. The successful grandson providing for his poor, widowed grandma. Leo opened his mouth to protest, but the words died. Your grandmother, Irene continued, could have lived in a palace. She could have retired 15 years ago. But she chose to live simply. She chose to keep working, and she chose to give you a leg up without you becoming soft. Or she tried to. What do you mean? Leo, how much did you and Chloe spend last month on dinners out? On clothes. On trips. Leo didn't answer. Your wife, Irene said, the word laced with distaste, has posted dozens of pictures flaunting your luxurious life. Bags that cost more than a teacher makes in a month, while your grandmother, the woman who owns it all, wears the same coat she's had for years. I didn't ask for any of that, Leo said weakly. You didn't ask, but you accepted it. And you didn't just accept it, child. You boasted about it. You told the world you'd earned it all yourself. And on Christmas night, in front of 20 people, you told your grandmother to pay rent or get out. Tears began to stream down Leo's face. I didn't know. And does that make it better? Irene took his hand. Your grandmother taught you with her silence, but you learned the wrong lesson. You mistook her humility for weakness, her generosity for an obligation. What do I do now, Aunt Irene? Irene squeezed his hand. Learn what she was trying to teach you from the start. The real worth of things, the sweat it takes to build something. The chasm between having advantages and deserving them. How do I start? From the bottom, child. Like your grandparents did. Without their money, without their connections. Just you and your own two hands. That's the only way you'll ever be able to look her in the eye again. Leo sat there for a long time, holding his grey tant's hand, crying for all he had lost and for the painful truth he was just beginning to grasp. Leo stood in front of an old brick building in Brooklyn. The paint was chipped. There was no doorman. "This is it," said the real estate agent, a young woman with too much enthusiasm. 500 square feet. 1 bedroom. 4th floor, walk up. How much? $900 a month, plus utilities. Chloe, standing behind him with her arms crossed, snorted. "You're joking, right? This is a closet." "It's what we can afford," Leo said, not looking at her. "I am not living here." Chloe gestured at the building. "Look at this place. What would I even post? Living my best life in a walk-up with peeling paint." "Then don't live here," Leo said, wearily. The agent coughed. "Do you want to see the inside, or?" "Yes," Leo said. "No," Chloe said simultaneously. Leo looked at her. "Chloe, I have to make a decision. I have to hand over the penthouse keys on the 31st. I can afford this. It's ugly, it's small, but it's what my actual salary can handle." "Well, it can't handle me," Chloe said firmly. "Leo, this is not what I signed up for when I married you." "What did you sign up for?" "A contract where I fund your endless luxury." "I signed up for a life. A life you promised. The successful architect, the beautiful apartment, the vacations. That life wasn't real." Leo's voice broke. "It was a lie. A lie my grandmother financed while I believed my own hype." Chloe took off her sunglasses, her eyes cold. "Then find a way to get it back. Talk to your grandmother. Apologize. Grovel if you have to. But don't ask me to live in this." She looked at the building with pure disgust. "My grandmother isn't taking my calls. She's not responding to texts. I don't know where she really lives." "Then find her. Go to her office. Beg her." "I won't beg her for money." "Why not?" Chloe threw her hands up. "Pride. Now you have pride. You didn't have any when you were spending her money on $1,000 dinners." The truth of her words hit him like a physical blow. "I'm renting this apartment," he said finally. "You can come with me or not. Your choice." He turned to the agent. "I'd like to see it." Chloe stood on the sidewalk as Leo followed the agent up the 4 flights of stairs. She didn't follow. When Leo reached the top, breathless and his legs burning, he knew Chloe was right about one thing. This wasn't what they'd had. But for the first time in his life, it would be truly his. The apartment was as depressing as it looked. Water stains on the ceiling. Appliances from the last century. But it was his. Leo moved in on January 30th with 2 suitcases and a heavy shame. Chloe had left a week prior to stay with her parents in Connecticut, leaving a note, "Call me when you're the man I married again." Leo wasn't sure he ever had been that man. He spent his first night on the floor, staring at the cracked ceiling, doing math on his phone. Net salary, $3,000. Rent plus utilities, $980. Food, $350. Transit, $127. Total, $1,457. He had about $1,500 left over each month. In his old life, Chloe could spend that on a single weekend brunch. Day 45. February. Leo started looking for side work. His architecture job paid okay, but not enough to dig out of his hole. One night, eating ramen on the floor, he got a message from an unknown number. "Hello, Leo. I'm Ben Carter. I run a small firm in Queens focused on affordable housing. Your grandfather worked on some of our first projects. I've seen your work. Interested in talking?" Leo replied instantly. "Yes. When?" Day 60. Meeting with Ben. Ben Carter's office was in a converted warehouse in Queens. Exposed brick, drafting tables, a team of 6 working amidst models and blueprints. Ben was around 50, with unruly hair and energetic eyes. "Your grandfather," he said, pointing to a photo on the wall. One of the best carpenters I ever worked with. He understood buildings, not just as structures but as homes. Leo looked at the photo, his grandfather, younger, smiling with a crew. I didn't know you worked together. For years, before he and your grandmother started Vance Holdings. Ben looked at him directly. You know what your grandfather once told me? Ben, buildings aren't for showing off. They're for giving people shelter and dignity. Leo felt a lump in his throat. I have a project, Ben continued. Renovating old tenements in the Bronx into affordable units. The budget is tight. The pay isn't glamorous but the work matters. How much? $2,400 a month for 6 months. If it goes well, maybe more. It was less than he made now, but Leo nodded. When do I start? Ben smiled. Monday. Bring work boots. You'll be on site, not just pushing paper. Day 90. March. Leo woke at 6 a.m., took the subway to the Bronx, worked on dusty sites until 6 p.m., came home exhausted, cooked simple meals, and spent his nights designing on his old laptop. He learned to make pasta, stir-fry, and salad. His next-door neighbor, an elderly man named Arthur, knocked on his door one Saturday. Son, you got any olive oil? I'm out. Leo gave him a bottle. Arthur peered into his sparse apartment. Just move in. A few weeks ago. It's a transition. Arthur nodded sagely. Life puts you where you need to be, not where you want to be. Come for dinner tomorrow. I'm making stew. Leo went. Arthur's stew tasted like home. For the first time since Christmas, he felt a flicker of warmth. Day 120. April. Chloe sent divorce papers. Leo signed them without argument. Part of him felt free. She deserved someone who could give her the life she wanted, and he needed to find out who he was without that pressure. Day 150. May. The Bronx project was taking shape. Leo had designed a simple, efficient layout to convert old buildings into 550-square-foot homes with good light and space. Cost per unit, $70,000. Ben was impressed. This has potential. Ever thought about pitching it to investors? I don't have the connections, Leo admitted. Well, I do. Let me make some calls. That night, Leo sat in his apartment. He now had a table, a mattress, and 2 chairs from a thrift store. He thought of his grandmother. Over the past 5 months, he'd called her 38 times. All messages unanswered. He wrote one more. Grandma, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to give me anything back. I just want you to know I finally get it. I'm learning. Slowly, but I'm learning. I love you, Leo. Send. He didn't expect a reply, but 10 minutes later, his phone buzzed. A message from David Miller's number. Your grandmother received your message. She says she is well, and that she is proud you have found honest work. Keep going. She will contact you when the time is right. Leo read it 5 times. She is proud. For the first time in months, he smiled. Leo stood before a long oak table. At the head sat his grandmother, Eleanor Vance, in a sharp gray suit. To her right, David. To her left, Rebecca. 3 other executives he didn't know sat with laptops open. Leo, Eleanor said in a calm, professional voice. Please, begin your presentation. His legs felt weak. He connected his cracked laptop to the projector. Good morning. My name is Leo Vance. I am an architect, and I am here to present a project that can provide dignified housing for 150 families in the Bronx. For the next 45 minutes, he presented every detail. Modular design, sustainable materials, natural light, community spaces. Budget, $8 million. Cost per unit, $72,000. Sale price, $78,000. Margin, 8.3%. Social impact, 150 families, 50 construction jobs. As he spoke, he saw his grandmother taking notes. David nodded. Rebecca checked numbers. When he finished, silence. Then David spoke. The budget is tight. How do you prevent cost overruns? Because I've been on site for 6 months, Leo responded. I know every supplier, every cost, every risk. I've built a 10% contingency fund. Rebecca asked, what if the city denies permits? I've had preliminary talks with the planning department. The project aligns with their goals. I'm 90% confident. An executive asked, why should we invest $8 million for an 8% return? There are developments with 30% margins. Leo looked at her. Because this isn't just about profit. It's about purpose. This city has a housing crisis. Families are being priced out. This project won't make us rich, but it will let us sleep at night. Finally, Eleanor spoke. Her first words to him in over half a year. Leo, a personal question. Why this project? Why now? 6 months of pain and growth passed between their gazes. Because 6 months ago, I lost everything. My home, my car, my marriage, my pride. And in losing it all, I found something. Living in a $900 walk-up, cooking cheap meals, that taught me more about architecture than my entire degree. I learned that buildings aren't for impressing people. They are for housing them. And the people who need it most have the least. This project exists because I lived what they live. And because my grandfather, his voice cracked, taught me that the hands that build are more important than the signature on the check. Eleanor closed her notebook. Thank you, Leo. We will inform you of our decision within 48 hours. That is all. Leo gathered his things. At the door he paused. President Vance. Yes. Regardless of your decision, thank you. For every lesson. Even the painful ones. He left. Leo's phone rang. An unknown number. Mount Sinai Hospital. Your grandmother, Eleanor Vance, has been admitted. A minor heart episode. She's stable but is asking for you. Leo's world stopped. He ran. At the hospital, David was in the hall. What happened? Stress. Exhaustion. She's been working non-stop since Christmas. Since she let me go, Leo finished. She didn't let you go, David said softly. She set you free. But that doesn't mean it didn't cost her. Leo pushed the door open gently. The room was dim. His grandmother looked small in the bed, connected to beeping monitors. Grandma, he whispered. She opened her eyes. A weak smile. Hello, Leo. He took her hand. It was cold. What did you do to yourself? I had to be sure, she said, her voice tired. Sure of what? That you had learned. That when I gave you this chance, you'd take it for the right reasons. She squeezed his hand. Your presentation. Robert would have been so proud. Tears streamed down Leo's face. I'm so sorry. For every horrible word. For my ingratitude. Eleanor touched his cheek. You are forgiven. I forgave you the night I walked out. It took time for you to forgive yourself. I don't deserve this project. I don't deserve your trust. It's not about deserving, she said. It's about learning. And you learned, Leo. I see it in your eyes. You understand the value of effort. The weight of responsibility. A doctor entered. Ms. Vance needs rest. You can stay but keep it brief. When the doctor left, Eleanor closed her eyes. The project is approved, she murmured. You start Monday. David has the details. You're going to be fine. I'm going to be great. But you have to promise me something. Anything. Don't work like I did. Don't carry it all alone. Trust your team. And Leo, live. Don't just build buildings. Build a life. A good one. Promise me. I promise, Grandma. She smiled, drowsy from medication. Good. Because I didn't do all this for you to repeat my mistakes. I did it so you could build something better. Eleanor was in the kitchen of her West Village apartment. The smell of roasted turkey filled the air. Leo arrived at 5 p.m. with groceries. I'm here to help cook, he said. You cook now? Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Arthur taught me the basics. Don't give me anything complicated, but I can chop vegetables. They worked side by side. The radio played carols. How many are coming? Leo asked. 15. David and his family, Rebecca, Ben, Arthur, your Aunt Irene, some staff, and the Miller family from the Bronx. I invited them. Leo's throat tightened. Grandma, it's a family dinner. And family isn't always blood, she said simply. Sometimes it's the people you build with. Dinner was joyful. The table was smaller, the plates mismatched, but the laughter was real. When Mr. Miller's young daughter showed Leo a drawing of her new home with hope written above it, everyone clapped. At 10 p.m., Leo stood. His heart was full. I want to say something. The table quieted. A year ago, at a Christmas dinner, I said the cruelest thing I've ever said. I told my grandmother to pay rent in her own home. I humiliated her. I treated her like a burden. He looked at Eleanor, her eyes shining. And she did what only a truly loving grandmother would do. She didn't scream. She didn't explain. She let me fall. And in that fall, she taught me how to fly. He turned to her fully. Grandma, I spent this year learning what you always knew. That value isn't in a price tag, but in the effort it took to create. That wealth without integrity is the deepest poverty. And that real love has to be strong enough to be tough. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. This is for you. Eleanor opened it. A check for $18,000. It's every dollar I spent on your credit card over those 3 years. It took me a year to save it. It's yours, with interest. Eleanor looked at the check, then tore it in half. I don't want your money, she said softly. I wanted your character. And that, my grandson, is priceless. She stood and hugged him. The table erupted in applause. Aunt Irene was crying. Arthur shouted, "Here, here." David raised his glass. Mr. Miller's daughter whispered, "When I grow up, I want to be like Leo." Her mother smiled. Then learn from his heart, not just his work. After everyone left, Leo helped with the dishes. The project finishes in March, he said. All 150 units. Full occupancy. I know. David tells me. And after that, Ben offered me a partnership. But I have other options, too. Eleanor stopped washing. What do you want, Leo? Not what I want, not what Ben wants. What does your heart want? Leo thought. I want to keep doing work that matters. But also, he hesitated, I want to be near you. I wasted years not knowing who you really are. I want to make up for that time. Eleanor smiled. Then I have a proposal. Vance Holdings is starting a new social impact division. We need a director. Someone who understands the architecture and the heart behind it. Are you interested? Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a purpose. With a fair salary. No special treatment. But with the chance to change thousands of lives. Are you interested, Leo? He looked into her eyes. Yes. On one condition. Which is? That we have dinner. At least once a week. No shop talk. Just grandma and grandson making up for lost time. Eleanor extended her hand. Deal. They shook hands formally, then laughed and hugged. Leo, now 32, stood before a beautiful new housing complex in the Bronx. The sign read, The Robert Vance Homes. Beside him was Eleanor, now 70, radiant. Your grandfather would be over the moon, she said. I know. I feel him here. In the crowd were the families who lived there. Arthur, beaming. David, Rebecca, Ben. And a new woman beside Leo, Clara, a community organizer. She understood his passion. When Leo took the microphone, he spoke from the heart. This place is named for my grandfather, a man who believed buildings should shelter dreams, not just people. But it's also the legacy of my grandmother, Eleanor Vance, who taught me that the toughest love is the one that makes you stand on your own 2 feet. He looked at her. 5 years ago, I was an arrogant boy who thought he was entitled to everything. Today, I'm just a man trying to be worthy of the name I carry. These homes aren't my achievement. They are ours. And as long as I live, I'll keep building, not for my legacy, but for our shared future. The crowd applauded. He cut the ribbon. Leo and Clara walked through the new community, hand in hand. That evening, on Eleanor's terrace, they looked out at the city. "Are you happy, Leo?" Eleanor asked. "Yes. Truly." "And Clara, she's real. She loves the work, not a fantasy. That's the difference between a partnership and a transaction." Leo nodded. "And you, Grandma? Are you happy?" Eleanor considered it. "I am at peace. Which is better than happiness? Happiness comes and goes. Peace remains. What gives you peace?" "Seeing you become the man I always knew you could be. Knowing that the Vance name will stand for something good long after I'm gone." "Don't say that. You'll be around for decades." Eleanor laughed. "Maybe. But when my time comes, I want you to know something. Everything I built," she gestured to the skyline, "is not my real legacy. You are. The man you became. That is my masterpiece." Leo felt tears of gratitude. "I don't deserve a grandmother like you. Nobody deserves love, Leo. We can only honor it. And you have honored mine." They sat in comfortable silence as the city lights began to twinkle below, a testament to effort, to second chances, and to the unbreakable bonds of family, forged not in ease but in truth. Thank you for watching. If this story of legacy and tough love resonated with you, please support our channel by giving this video a like and subscribing to Winds of Thought for more tales that make you think. The greatest inheritance is not wealth, but wisdom.